All right, so behind me, you're going to see to the far, or to this part of the board here. From the research I've done, roughly 85% of the people who experience hauntings, low-level shit. Okay, we're talking like, slamming doors that can't be explained by wind, footsteps, your dog alerts to, shit around the house, or maybe a cat or whatever. You hear muttering voices, meaning if you ever been in an area where somebody's talking, but they're far enough away that you can't really understand what they're saying, but you know somebody's speaking. That's what I mean by muttering. And then you have your shadows, dreams, and of course we have orbs. Now, there's all kinds of orbs out there. What they are, who knows? I mean, I have my opinion. I think a lot of those orbs are disembodied souls that are still zipping around here for whatever reason, and it is what it is. I've taken pictures of orbs. I tried to find the MP4 I had on one of my computers where I did it's like a 3-minute recording in front of the Christmas tree before my kids came down. And I didn't notice it at the time. When I looked back at it, you can actually see orbs moving through the Christmas tree. And then there was another one that was going around the top for no apparent reason. Now, this is my mother's Christmas tree. It's the same Christmas tree I've had virtually for my entire life. I've set it up and taken it down countless times. I pretty much know how the whole thing works. And for people to say, well, maybe it's Christmas lights. All right, yeah, maybe. I doubt it. I know the difference between the stationary Christmas light and one that moves around. I'm just saying. And I thought that was pretty creepy. All right, now next you go up here to the mid-level hauntings. Okay, so this is 85% of the time it's low-level horse shit. 10% of the time, medium. It's a mid-level haunting. Now, are there any studies to all this? I don't think so. I'm just going from the amount of stuff I've viewed throughout my life and in regards to what was what. And I've put this together of my own accord, about 4 or 5 years back. Now, the mid-level hauntings starts off with apparitions. Now, what I mean by apparitions, they're either transparent or they look like real human beings, and you look at them, you do like the double take or whatever. They're there for anywhere from 2 seconds and beyond, or they're moving from point A to point B. That's a mid-level haunting. Next is clear voices. You actually hear the words in real time. Now, a lot of people will call this EVPs. If you need to find them on a tape recorder, more than likely they're down here. Okay, I'm talking about clear voices, spoken in the open, no explanation, right there. Okay. Now, another one that's when you hear voices that takes it up one more notch on the list is when the voices mimic you or a loved one. All right, because there's all kinds of situations out there where people hear their wives and their kids calling them, and those people aren't even home, or they're in a different room, but they hear somebody calling from the upstairs. Okay, it sounds like there's only one reason for that, and that, in my opinion, of course, this is all subjective, is it doesn't have your best interest at heart. All right, so I would say if you hear voices and they sound like members of your family and it's not them, it goes up here. Okay, next, moving items out of view. All right, now typically, and I've experienced this, especially in the house my mother owned when I went to high school and stuff. There were times when literally I would set something down on the counter like this, I'm the only one home. I walk away for a few minutes, come back, gone. All right. Now, most of the times, it reappears, but not where you left it. And sometimes in places that you don't mess around with. Like, for instance, I've had stuff, like when I first bought the house in Berkeley, the one I live in now, or my mother lives in now, I literally had about a half a dozen instances where I had the tools, I'm working on stuff, I set the tools down, and they're gone. I find them, looking around, but like 2 or 3 times, I found the tool that I had set down in the toolbox in the basement. Now, do I think something crazy was going on there? Yes, I do. I bought that house mainly because it's all I could get. It was during the 2008 downturn, and I had very limited resources because, I was living in the street, or no, it was before I lived in the street, actually. And I had very limited resources, and I needed to get the house. And I knew it was haunted. It just wasn't, it wasn't high enough on my radar to cause me to go nuts. Now, some people are like, oh, well, maybe you have OCD or whatever, and your memory is all fucked. Yeah, my memory is jacked. It's not that jacked. All right. Now, it's gotten a lot better since I got wounded in Iraq, but I call this the brain. And quite literally, if I have to remember something, I write it in here. Jokes, comedy situations, whatever. So, some people could say, oh, your memory's just effed up. Okay, a skeptic can say that. I was there. I know the deal. All right. Now, I've never had this here, knocking on doors and doorbell stuff. All right, you can go on YouTube, and there's all kinds of videos out there where the front doorbell rings, they go answer it or look out there, and then there's knocking on the back door or back window, and it moves around the house. Now, that's a mid-level haunting, in my opinion. And then you have, water turning on and off on its own. Annoying horse shit like that. All right, now, more than likely, if you're experiencing this kind of stuff, you are at a intelligent haunting. All right, now, typically there's intelligent hauntings, and then you have residual hauntings. Theory behind that is a residual haunting is a psychic imprint of something that took place in the past that that plays over and over again. At sometimes it could be on birthdays, anniversaries of certain events. Other times, it's unpredictable. All right. So that's what I mean by a residual. Intelligent haunting, there's an intelligence there that's fucking with you. All right, it's not residual. Like a lot of poltergeist activity, in my opinion, are intelligent hauntings. Now, there's a lot of theories out there that, that it's intelligent, but it's still residual. It's either one or the other, in my opinion. Okay, then you have bad and good. Now, I'd say malevolent and benevolent. I just say bad or good. All right. All right, so we got that, and the good ghosts. For instance, I had a platoon sergeant when I was in the National Guard, and he purchased just a small bungalow before he got married, and he lived there for like 4 years. Only him and his dog. And it was about 3 or 4 times a week for the first 6 months after he bought the house. He would come back from work, lights would be on, TV would be on, or radio. And it carried on for quite some time until he actually, yelled out when he's in the house. He's like, hey, I own this house now. Could you quit fucking with shit and just leave me alone? I don't care if you're here, but, it is what it is. I have no problem sharing it with you. I just don't want to have the craziness. And then after he did that, it went from happening, 3 or 4 times a week to like once or twice a month. And then that was no big deal. All right, so we got that. Next, we have the highest level, 5% or less fall into this category. All right, now some of the things that take place during high-level hauntings are, it's called an apport. That's where objects appear and disappear, mostly appear. Typically, if objects are being, left around the house that you can't explain, or, like, for instance, I had one of my soldiers back in the day used to collect baseball cards. And he had, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was one of the World Series teams. It escapes me. I don't follow sports. And he had the entire team. He was missing 2 cards. And sure as shit, he found 1 card in his house. All right, and it was worth like a $300 card. And the other one, literally, he was, what was it, a garage sale. And, he was not even thinking about the card. And he was just going up, looking at stuff, and he felt on his shoulder. He turned and looked, and on the top of a box full of other, like, hockey cards, football, was that baseball card that he wanted. It was his last one for that lineup. And it was right there. All right. Of course, he got it. It was like $10. It wasn't in the greatest shape, but it finished the whole collection for that World Series. It was a baseball team. World Series, not all right. And then that was it. And when he told me that, I was like, holy shit, that's pretty cool. But here's another thing. Touching. All right. Now, typically, if you're in a haunted environment and you get scratched or your hair gets pulled, you get touched, what have you, that's a top-tier haunting right there. And you better watch the fuck out. All right. Now, another one here is moving items while you're looking at them. All right. I don't know how it works on the other side. And one day we're all going to find out. But there's a big difference between something moving when you're not looking at it and another when you're looking right at it and you're watching shit move around. All right, that's you're going way beyond infrasound, way beyond everything else. All right. Now the next one is there are certain phenomena out there where there are supernatural forces which spontaneously catch shit on fire. That is exceptionally dangerous. All right. Now, typically the top level stuff does not have your best interest at heart, and more often than not, they're intelligent and they're bad. Boom, right there. All right. Now we come to possession and / domination. All right. We all know what that is. That's where, another spirit jumps into your meat suit and takes over, the captain chair and quite literally does whatever. Who knows? All right. Now, in the middle here, I'm talking about the places that I've, come across that are haunted. Some are more than others. Like, for instance, houses, I put them at the top because the generation of today don't seem to understand that most of the time before 1975-ish, people died at home all the time. All right. And if you get an old house, like the house that I own and my mother lives in Berkeley, it's 109 years old, 110 years old. So you figure you go from 1975 to today, it's 50 years-ish. But before that, it's a half a century of people living in that house. All right? And look, back in the day, people died all of the goddamn time. no antibiotics, no cure for a lot of diseases, vaccination for a lot of the nuisance diseases that we have today were terminal back in the day. So that's why, most houses, if they're older, built before 1975, there's a very good chance you got some craziness going on in there. In fact, the house that we're in right now, the Lair, it's haunted by, I believe, a child, and I believe there's one adult. There's no noises or sounds for the most part, but it's the feeling I get. I've had the problem with the back door opening and stuff, and it just is what it is. All right, next, commercial buildings. All right, now, the newer ones, not so much. But I'm talking about the commercial buildings that you find in, like, rural America that are along Main Street. Because back in the day, those were owned by individuals, and they were making a living, doing whatever they're doing, and they burned in. Maybe they like working there, they liked having a business, and they stick around. All right, I teach kickboxing at Smash Hit Kickboxing downtown Pontiac, and that building has got, I would say, a moderate level of activity. I've heard the footsteps, doors open and close, a little bit of murmuring here and there. And a couple of times I've come into the gym. I have the key, the only one there, and I know no one's been there all day. I walk in, and there's one or two punching bags moving. Can't explain it. Do I let it, creep me out? No, it just is what it is. Most of the time, they're just normal people who no longer have bodies. All right? And they have no more power over you than they did when they were alive. So if you can keep that mindset going in the back of your head, it dials the fear down, from like a 10 to like a 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is manageable. All right, next we have cemeteries. Now, in hindsight, I should really move this down further on the list because the grand scheme of things, most cemeteries are not crazy haunted. All right? It just is what it is. You're dead. You died in the hospital. You died at home, and then they bury you in the cemetery. So, the vacation or the vacating point where you left your meat suit is you didn't die in the cemetery. This is what it is. Though there are a lot of good videos out there of, cemetery stuff. Case in point, there's a big cemetery right next to Berkeley, Michigan. It runs right along the side of Woodward between 13 and 12 Mile Road. And this happened twice after 10 o'clock, and this is years ago. Both times I was coming from a bar, and then the other time I was driving to my girlfriend's house. And there was a neon sign, like literally right there at the fence line. It's maybe 10 feet back. And I'm driving, doing my thing, and I see a dude standing on the other side of the fence to the side of the sign. And I remember I saw him, and I had to hit the brakes. 3 seconds later, I looked over. I saw him again. I did this, and then he was gone. There's no fucking way that dude did anything in that amount of time. Literally, I was like, gone. All right. Second time, coming back there, I could not tell if it was the same person. The second time, he was standing off to the side of the sign, and I could see right through him. Right through that guy. That was creepy. But other than that, most of the time, in all the cemeteries I've been in, which I don't like going in many, and I usually go in there when I only have to throw somebody in the dirt, it's been pretty peaceful for the most part. Hospitals. Crazy haunted. All right. Not virtually, most of the people who die today will die in the hospital. And sometimes they get released from the hospital to go to hospice and die at home. That's becoming a lot more popular in the past 15 years. But most hospitals who've been around, 15 years or more, all kinds of crazy stuff going on in there. Next is funeral homes. All right, now, it is my opinion, and I've been to quite a few funeral homes in my time, that the individuals that choose to remain in and around the funeral homes, there was a service held there, and for whatever reason, they just got trapped there or what have you. Another one is this. I'm a firm believer that after you die, you can check out your own fucking funeral. And I think that's what's going on, in my opinion. All right. Next, schools, especially the lower, grade school, K through like 5th grade. Some of the older schools that go K through 8th grade. The lower ones are usually significantly more haunted than like high schools and what have you. Why that is, I don't know. But it's incredibly sad when a child dies. And for the most part, children really don't know how the world is. They really only know how the world was when they were in school. And perhaps that's where they find some solace and they like to hang out there. I don't know. Next, areas with a lot of death or had a lot of death take place, i.e. Civil War battlegrounds. Stupid haunted. And it doesn't matter day or night, full moon, no moon. It is fucking crazy. All right, I've reviewed, I don't know, 200 or 300 EVPs from a lot of the Civil War battlefields. And, they seem like they're intelligent. I don't know what's going on there. But one that really creeped me out the most, and I think this somewhere in Pennsylvania, I don't remember the battlefield, but it's now like a state park. And there was 5 or 6 Civil War cannons off to the side of the road, and they're in their car filming down the road, and you literally see 2 sentries, walking around the goddamn cannons. And that really wigged me out. All right, cars and objects, very, very rare. All right, typically, cars and objects are haunted. It's usually a bad thing. I really haven't come across a lot of stories in regards to items like dolls and little bikes and stuff that are haunted. And it's a good spirit. It's usually means you no good. And last, military bases. A lot of guys die in the service, commit suicide in the service. I've seen quite a few. I've talked to, when I was homeless, I talked to a lot of other homeless guys who were former, they were veterans, former military. And all they wanted to do was go back to the time when they're in the service because life was so much simpler for them. They had 3 hots and a cot, and they had to do their job, and that was it. And then they were stuck living in the street now because circumstances and vagina and things. But, and I could see, how after you pass, they like that part of their life, and they cycle back and, bring it back into the forefront.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Popp for Supporters Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.